What should we be expecting from the Baltimore Ravens 2024 rookie class? We talk about it from a player perspective, a whole draft class perspective, and more coming up next here on this episode of Locked On Ravens.
You are Locked On Ravens, your daily Baltimore Ravens podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into another edition of Locked On Ravens. We are your daily Baltimore Ravens podcast, and I'm your host, Kevin Oestreicher of Ravens Wire, here with you on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. As always, thank you so much for being here, tuning in, making Locked On Ravens your first listen each and every day. We're free and available for you on all podcasting platforms. That includes in video form on YouTube. You can like the video, subscribe to the channel, turn notifications on. Also in audio form, you can follow along wherever you get your favorite podcasts on your favorite podcasting platforms. We're here for you 5 days a week with daily Ravens coverage. So news, analysis, updates, the whole 9 yards with that. So tell a friend, tell a family member if they want some daily Ravens content, we have them covered on Locked On Ravens. Today's episode of Locked On Ravens is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Here we are on a Taco Thursday, and that means we have our Taco Thursday guest, former Baltimore Ravens wide receiver and a Super Bowl champion, Qadry Ismail. And Q, the NFL schedule is getting a little wacky now because we thought that it was going to come out tonight. That was the guessing game that people thought, but now actually it's going to apparently be released next Wednesday. So in 6 days, we have a little bit more time to speculate where the Ravens will be on week one, how they'll close out their season. But for now, it's just the guessing game.
Yeah, it's so funny because as I've grown in the league, going on 3 decades, I've recognized that the NFL, the off season for some people is larger than the actual season itself. And part of it is the way in which the NFL marketing machine has done it with the opening of a draft. Like, wow, who figured that? Now it's prime time. And then the schedule release and for the insiders who can get the schedule out quicker than the other guy, and who's playing where and why, and it takes on a life of its own. But I also think, obviously, fantasy football comes into play, and more than anything, it's hope springs eternal in the offseason. Everybody, every team, whether you're the Arizona Cardinals, whether you're the New York Jets, whomever you are, AFC, NFC, you feel like my team is the best team, and they're going to take it to the next level and win. So I love it. I'm anxious to see what's going to happen as far as the Ravens.
They really do make all those things an event. Like it is a whole spectacle. And the thank you that, look, for the first overall pick in these drafts, these teams have been thinking about this for months. For the Bears, Caleb Williams, it took them, 8 minutes to put that pick in? I mean, they knew who they were taking, but obviously the NFL, the opening of the draft, as you said there, look, it's for entertainment, it's for the fans, and that they got a lot of stuff going on. So the schedule release is always fun, and the NFL over the last couple of years has definitely turned that into a major event. But we'll have to wait. Again, next Wednesday is when that's coming out. But Q, today I want to be talking with you in this first part of the show about some rookie expectations early. I mean, again, we're in May, so we'll probably revisit this in a couple of months once training camp starts up. But just now, a couple weeks removed from the draft, we know the draft class. So let's start with the draft class as a whole, because I think certain teams draft certain draft classes when it comes to where they are, when it comes to competition and where they are competitively. For the Ravens, we know this is their window. So ideally, you would want your picks to come in immediately and contribute. But last year, that really wasn't the case for the most part. Zay Flowers obviously came in and did his thing. Tavius Robinson played a bigger role than expected. But other than that, it was a bunch of development. I mean, Trenton Simpson didn't necessarily play a ton. Andrew Voorhees was injured, and that was a pick for this upcoming year that they made last year. So for this class, Q, do the Ravens need to have multiple guys come in and play a massive role right off the bat?
I would say preliminarily, yes, because of the veterans that have left and the depth that you need on your roster that will help as far as where the Ravens want to go. Corner is a situation. Safety is a situation. Rush in is a situation. Offensive line is a situation. little bit of receiver, but not much. But those positions there, those are the ones where it requires that depth. And I think that, the way that Eric DeCosta and company are liking what they're seeing as far as some of the young guys, primarily Tampa and Wiggins. Roger, I think he's getting there, and it looks like those players, and you might as well kind of sort of put Voorhees in there because technically he, as much as he was a rookie, he just rehabbed all last year. And so now he gets a chance to, come out there and put on, the helmet and participate in the rookie mini camp and all the things. So I think this class more than likely will have a stronger presence for them on the field than last year's class because they didn't really need to. I think there's a little bit more, especially in the secondary, there's a little bit more of a need rather than it was last season.
Yeah, I essentially call this the Ravens having two rookie classes ready to contribute. 2023 guys, they're going to get Trent Simpson in a big role this year. You mentioned Voorhees. I'm removing Flowers and partially Tavius Robbins from that conversation because they played decently sized roles. They obviously a huge one, but you're having all these second year guys who were able to understand the NFL game for a year, learn behind some guys, and you're bringing those guys in. But also this draft class, Nate Wiggins is somebody who I expect you to have a pretty big role day one. And you talked about the secondary. This team has had a history of corner injuries throughout their franchise history where, Ozzie Newsome, everybody echoes it. Eric DeCosta, you can't have enough cornerbacks. You cannot have enough depth in that secondary. I still remember, and, there are multiple examples, but 2014, when they were signing guys off the street to play in that divisional round against the Patriots, like Rashawn Melvin, and obviously no disrespect, Melvin actually turned into a decently solid player, but that just goes to show how fickle that position can be for Baltimore. So, Q, when it comes to Nate Wiggins, when it comes to TJ Tampa, obviously you would expect Wiggins to play in that third cornerback spot behind Marlon Humphrey and Brandon Stevens, but the Ravens have loved those three outside corner rotations with a quality slot guy. We've seen that multiple times. I would expect Wiggins to have a pretty big role, and TJ Tampa, maybe you can play him at safety. Versatility is key. Plus with Wiggins, he can play in the slot too and gives the Ravens an opportunity to move other guys around based off where they put him.
So I think you're forgetting about the brilliant play of Arthur Millette.
Yeah.
Much as we want to go ahead and anoint these young players, like I'm not that old crusty retired veteran that doesn't feel like, oh, you can't play that guy. No. But what I am saying is if you're a secondary coach, you're going to go with the known rather than the unknown. And there is a lot of learning and assimilation into the way Orr's defense is going to be looking. Zach Orr's defense is going to be way different than Mike McDonald's, and the veteran players are going to have a leg up on what they need to do and the nuance of getting themselves ready. So, yes, they will be playing. No, I don't foresee, unless, as you are saying, those injuries kind of come about, I don't foresee it being one of those situations where it's like we're anointing him right away based upon the quality of the guys that are in front of him.
Right. Well, no, and Wiggins has to earn it. What I wasn't forgetting, I don't want to sound like I'm disrespecting Mr. Arthur Millette there because he did a great year. I think a lot of people had lower expectations for him coming into the year last year, and he just balled out. And he fits what Baltimore wants to do so well. He fit the Mike McDonald defense, obviously, with Zach Orr. You're hiring internally, so you're going to keep at least some of that, if not a lot of it. But to me, I think you can have, so for example, like with the three corner rotations of like Marlon Humphrey, Brandon Carr, and Jimmy Smith, or Marlon Humphrey, Marcus Peters, and Jimmy Smith, Tavon Young was their guy in the slot. Now, Marlon had to learn how to do the slot, and he could play in the slot. But to me, I think if we fast forward to this year, Millette is probably going to be a big slot guy and play a ton. Even they could give Ardarius Washington a shot in the slot. That could happen. But I think that we're going to see Wiggins rotate in on the outside with Marlon Humphrey and Brandon Stevens, like we saw a guy like Marcus Peters and Brandon Carr, and even like a Marlon, Jimmy, like all those guys. they rotated in on the outside. That's where I see Nate Wiggins factoring in. Plus, there is the added bonus. I'm saying the slot thing to me is more like a bonus option because, again, Millette earned that job last year, right? That's going to be his job to start. He earned it as a veteran. He's going to keep it. But to me, I'm really excited to see how Wiggins and TJ Tampa perform here. But Q, talking about the offensive line, you mentioned Roger Rosengarten, and seems like he is the early favorite to be the starting right tackle. Now, obviously, he has to go and earn that job as well. It's not just going to be handed to him. Daniel Falele is probably his main competition at this point. Based off of everything the Ravens have shown and what they want their offensive line to look like, getting younger, more athleticism, it seems like Rosengarten fits that bill pretty seamlessly for the most part. And so that's why personally I have him as the early favorite to play that big role and probably start at right tackle for Baltimore, assuming that that's where they go with it.
Yeah, I think the one thing for Rosengarten is the delicate balance of, doing what makes you great. And that means that his football IQ, he was trained by former pros from the offensive line. So, he already has a leg up as far as seeing the different looks and understanding the different, calls and principles. So he got all of that. Now it's a matter of the physicality of the game. I think that, Daniel Falele, he should have, an advantage. I think also from a bigger picture aspect of things, there are other guys, though, that are on that roster that are quote unquote nameless that, I'm not aware of, you're not aware of, because that's the beauty of this business with, free agency and undrafted rookies and, bringing guys in. Like it's an ongoing competition. It's an ongoing, flow. And let's get the pads on. Let's see how they all compete. Let's see who blinks first. But you're right, Rosengarten, like the fact that he already has pro understanding gives him somewhat of leverage. And Daniel Falele, he struggled a little bit. He had some issues within his game. He was big, but he was so top heavy. If you're not top heavy, you can move and move well. And, Todd Monken likes that movement because I got a mobile quarterback. I have a scheme that doesn't necessarily want to maul you at the point of attack, but they want to move you and position you. And then my guys are going to go off of you. Derrick Henry, once he get in the secondary, it's over. Lamar Jackson, 205, once he get in the secondary, you best believe it's over. So there's differences in how you approach this from an offensive line standpoint. If you're a plotting, mule of an offensive lineman, this might not be the ideal situation for you. And you might be, possibly getting traded out to the Chargers and being a big offensive lineman out there.
Man, the first time the Ravens and Chargers make a deal, if, Jim is obviously still there, Greg Roman, probably going to break Ravens Twitter and maybe Chargers Twitter too. But again, it's going to be key because, again, Rosengarten is not going to be handed this job. There is going to be a competition. The Ravens, honestly, Keo, when you think about it, they do favor the veterans a little bit over some of these rookie guys, especially when you get to the middle round. So coming up, we'll be finishing out our rookie expectations with a few more players and also getting into that Mr. 205 that Q hinted at there, Lamar Jackson, and his new weight. So stay tuned, plenty to talk about here on Locked On Ravens. First, this show is sponsored by BetterHelp, and this next segment is brought to us by our sponsor, BetterHelp. Sometimes you don't need the opportunity to get something off our chest, big or small. Certain things can really start to get to you. It's important to let that out, especially to someone who's unbiased in your life. So today, I want to say how I feel about something. You might even be thinking the same thing this week. And for me, obviously, the schedule got delayed a little bit for the NFL. It's expected to come out next Wednesday. But to me, I think a lot of people might be wanting the Ravens to avoid the Chiefs in week one, that away game. You know what? To me, I say bring them on. I say bring on Kansas City week one, what will hopefully be a healthy Ravens team versus what will hopefully be a healthy Kansas City team. A good starting point for the Ravens to gauge where they are. So to me, you're going to have to play them eventually. It's not like you can avoid them. The Chiefs are on the schedule. You're going to Arrowhead at some point. So to me, I think week one, electric primetime game. I'd say the Ravens should be on board for that, and I think it'd be a good thing for them. But therapy can be different for everyone. Most of us have bigger problems in our favorite sports team, and it's important to get things off your chest every once in a while. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be flexible and suited to your schedule. Visit BetterHelp.com/lockedon to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedon. We're back our second segment of Locked On Ravens. Kevin Oestreicher and Qadry Ismail still talking with you here on this Thursday. Now, Q, Adisa Isaac is an interesting pick because the value, when you talk about, oh, well, you get the value here, the value picks, which I know we talked about last week, but you get that. He's an edge guy. Now, in your edge room, you already had Kyle Van Noy, who you brought back, Odafe Owe, who is expected to hopefully have a really big year, David Ojabo, who is a question mark injury-wise and health-wise, but has shown at least a little level of production at the NFL game. And then you have other guys like Tavius Robinson, who we mentioned played a bigger role last year. I mean, I don't see Adisa Isaac playing a huge role for them unless there is an injury. And sure, injuries happen throughout every season, every year in football. So maybe there's that possibility. Hopefully, I'm going to knock on the wood there. Hopefully no injuries happen for Baltimore this year. Yes. But with the depth Baltimore already has, to me, it feels a little difficult to see a role for Isaac with a fully healthy edge room for the Ravens early on.
I love how you put all that because injuries is a part of football. It's tough. It's not something that you want to see, and it's something that's like it's the elephant in the room that nobody wants to talk about. But from an edge rusher aspect of thing, Adisa, if he can stay healthy and I think participate on special teams, kickoff. You ain't running down the field now. It's a different kind of a flow and concept of it all. I think that's going to really, speak volumes to guys getting their reps, if you will. Tavius Robinson, I know, he's going to be itching to come back and play and the game slow down more for him. He had some, like you said, some spot duty in there and looked good. David Ojabo, like that Penn State triumvirate, there's a lot of pressure there. It's like they all know each other. And yet, David coming off an injury, like in my mind, I am really anxious to see like, how is he going to be mentally? Like, Zach Orr, if I am in my defensive room, like I'm like, all right, bro, like, what are we looking at with my rush ends? Because if you saw, I think who set the tone last year for Mike McDonald's defense were his ends. He had them cooking, and it was no joke when it came to a lot of the pressure put on, whether it be the Brock Purdy's, the quarterback play for the Seahawks, whether it been, guys in our own division, they were all put on lockdown. And unfortunately, it didn't happen with Patrick Mahomes. Clearly, they got to him in the second half, no question about it. But they got out to a fast enough start, and that was enough. That being said, we take our cleansing breath, we move forward, and I think this group right here, like that's where Zach Orr, I think, should spend most of his time trying to see, how this defensive unit is going to be shaping up. Because I think the secondary, they're going to handle their business, and Roquan's Roquan. The linebacking core is going to be on point. And Matabike, last I checked, homeboy is anchoring it down in that interior. So, Chuck Smith, this is going to be your magic hour to see how well you can get all these guys up to speed.
Yeah, it seems like Odafe Owe has all his buddies in that edge room with him, with Ojabo and Adisa Isaac now. So you got the Penn State sandwich there with Michigan sandwich in between with Ojabo. Yep. But even you go to the fourth round, Q, with Devontae Walker in the wide receiver department, and I don't want to say it's a similar story because I do think there is a specific role that Tez Walker can play for them this year as a deep threat, as a bigger body who can come down with contested catches. But again, Zay Flowers is your number 1. Rashad Bateman, the Ravens are putting all the belief in him as the 2. And then you have Nelson Aguilar, who's probably going to start the year as the 3. I mean, to me, Tez Walker, will they favor Deontay Hardy over him in a specialized role? He's obviously going to be the returner, but there could be a potential package there. I think Tez Walker could be anywhere from the 4th to the 5th. I mean, obviously, Tylan Wallace still a wild card there as well. Do you see Tez Walker getting a significant amount of snaps, especially with the way this Ravens offense is constructed? Or do you think this is going to be more of a sit and learn year for him while maybe being the occasional deep threat?
Well, if you listen closely, reading in between the lines with Eric DeCosta, it's reminding him of Torrey Smith. I obviously covered the Ravens on the radio when Torrey and them were, rolling. And I will tell you, speed kills. And Torrey, so I forget the receivers coach name back there, but we had lots of conversation, and I loved how they would put Torrey in a tight single receiver look, and it was just oozing with, oh, we're going to run the football. Y'all are in trouble. Here comes Ray Rice. Vontae Leach is leading the way. And then all of a sudden, man, that safety come peeking up and just shoo, right on by the safety. And Torrey is just, hawking it down the field. Or you saw where, again, against the Rams, Torrey's, coming out party. He had his huge day and, just catching deep ball after deep ball on a Ram safety because they were like, this rookie, I'm about to call him a freshman. This rookie, he's sitting there, and over on the other side is a bona fide Pro Bowl guy, and that Pro Bowler just happened to be Anquan. So I think we're going to go ahead and favor his side. And they made him pay one-on-one, press coverage. What you going to do? I loved it. I think that, to me, is where they're hoping Walker brings that level of play. And there's no pressure on Walker. He just got to go out there and do it. There's no pressure on him. He's not a first rounder. He's not like some high pick. He's a very talented young man that, shoot, you want me to go down the field, run down the field? Okay, boom, okay. Oh, you forgot we had Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry? This is one-on-one. This is like easy business. I don't got to read coverage. I got touchdown. Oh. So that's where I think, Eric DeCosta and them envision that, as they drafted him to give over to John Harbaugh, and then obviously John and them giving it over to Monken, and Monken giving it over to Lamar, and you got to call up the plays, you got to, put them in the right position, but that's where I think they're looking at.
Yeah, really good point. I think that, Tez is going to have some level of a role, but you're right, he's not a high draft pick. So you can afford to have him sit for the year if you want to and kind of learn with it that way. And then for the other guys, and we talked about TJ Tampa a bit with Nate Wiggins, Rasheen Ali, Devin Leary, Nick Zemek, and Sanusi Gain. I don't expect huge roles for those guys. I mean, Tampa, obviously the one that I expect the biggest. Ali will play a little bit before Keaton Mitchell comes back. But other than that, Q, I think you're going to get probably big contributions from your top guys, and the other guys maybe could contribute here and there, but not necessarily not anything to write home about for the most part for probably some of those later guys early in their careers. But I want to round this out by asking you if you remember your expectations on you when you were a rookie. Did you kind of have an idea? Did the team approach you right after the draft and say, hey, we envision you here? I mean, what were your expectations that were put on you as a rookie? And then what were your specific expectations for yourself?
As a member of the Minnesota Vikings, I was a part of a draft class that our first round pick was Robert Smith. Then it was me. We had an offensive lineman, Everett Lindsay, who was here with the Ravens when we came over with Brian Billick. There was, I think, a later pick. I don't even remember. There were two offensive linemen. Jeff Christie, I believe, I think he was in my draft class as well. My point is this: the communication, the way in which the Ravens do things, the way in which social media kind of takes everybody out of their shell and forces conversation on podcasts and not just selective television. I think for me, I just didn't know, to be perfectly honest with you, what my role was going to be. I already mastered the entire offensive philosophy. And like once the mini camps were over with, and I had like some one-on-one time with the great Tom Moore. Tom had a way of talking like this, and I cannot not talk normal when I talk about Tom Moore. And Tom was like, Q, every backside route is a regular 5, except for when we call 585 run it. And so I was like, okay, Tom, I got you. So I kind of was a Torrey Smith kind of a player where, I was taking the top off the defense. We had a 3 wide receiver offense, and it was fun. It was fun. It was easy. It was like, all right, cool, let's play. But those were my expectations. Matter of fact, I was so confident in playing and knowing my role that, I kid you not, my agent talked to me. He said, Q, you're getting X, Y, and Z amount of money. What do you think? I was like, yeah, can you get more? He was like, yeah, absolutely, but you're going to have to hold out. I was like, honestly, like I'm not afraid to hold out because I know the entire offense. So I'm not behind. He's like, oh, you know the offense already? I was like, yeah. He goes, take your time. Man, I think I held out for like a week and a half or something. It was fun. And I got, as much money as I needed to get, went in there to camp, and the rest was history. So ultimately, these guys, as much as you and I are talking about it, it's critical for them to learn the nuance of the offense, learn the nuance of the defense, because what's happening is they're going to be thinking. Thinking is a disaster waiting to happen, because the moment you think is the moment you paralyze yourself. And technically, yes, you are learning a brand new language. You got to be fluent in it. And if you're fluent, great. It's going to take an awful lot for you to be fluent in it. And we'll see.
Yeah, for some guys it takes longer, other guys not so much. Feels like you just kind of put your hand on the playbook, put it on your head, and you said, I'm absorbing all this information. And that's how you did it. So, and I think it is a point you made there about just the way that technology and social media and, the way that sports is consumed nowadays. We do talk about expectations. There is access to talk about expectations a lot more than maybe when you were a rookie. So it's a different conversation here now than it maybe was in those areas for you when it just comes to how sports landscape and just technology in general has changed. But coming up in the final part of the show, we're going to be talking about Lamar's weight. So we got carried away a little bit on the rookies. We will get to that in the final part of the show. Plus, taking a trip down some Ravens memory lane with some stories from Eric DeCosta on his Ryan Ripken Show interview. Stay tuned. We got a lot to get to here on Locked On Ravens. First, the show is brought to you by Gametime. For me, I'm stoked about the NBA playoffs still. It'd be still cool to attend a game. Obviously, for me, I'm a Denver Nuggets fan, so they're down 0-2 to the Timberwolves. But Gametime is an authorized ticket marketplace of the NBA, which makes getting playoff tickets even faster and easier. Prices on the Gametime app actually go down the closer it gets to tip-off. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views, and receipt, and the lowest price guarantee, Gametime takes the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets. And so for me, you know what? It'd be awesome to go to a game in Minnesota, game 3, game 4. Maybe the Nuggets can get back on track. So game 3 is on Friday. Maybe that's the game the Nuggets need. It's possible. But to me, the Gametime app has so many different amazing features, such as last-minute deals. You can save up to 60% off buying last-minute tickets for sports, concerts, comedy, theater, and more. But the Gametime app experience is also just great. It's really easy to navigate. Plus, they have flash deals, zone deals, all-in pricing, seat views, lowest price guarantee, Gametime ticket coverage, and more. Take the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONNFL, spelled LOCKDO on NFL for $20 off. Download Gametime to the last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. We are back on Locked On Ravens with Qadry Ismail. I am Kevin Ostreicher talking Ravens with you. And Q, I think the thing that took Ravens Twitter by storm on Tuesday night was there was this complex interview type deal that dropped, and Lamar Jackson was the centerpiece of it. And he was reading tweets from fans, personalities about just him and funny things, serious things. But one of the things that came up was him walking into the castle. You and I had this conversation, I think it was about a month or so ago, when he was getting in there for workouts, and he was skinny. We talked about the weight, talked about how he looked, and he said in the complex interview, he said, I weighed 230 in 2022, 215 in 2023, and now I'm at 205. And that set the Ravens social media waves ablaze in terms of, well, two sides to it, which is, oh, he's getting that speed back. It's going to be spooky. And that's the tweet, actually. I think it was, Nitty Gritty Sports. I can't remember the exact name of the account, but that was the account that said it's going to be spooky. Lamar said, oh, yeah, most definitely. Or it was he's losing the weight that has made him become, quote unquote, I guess I saw durable, I saw healthy, which I'm saying, well, he got injured when he weighed that. But regardless, where are you on Lamar playing at 205 or him being 205 right now? Obviously, we're in May, it can change over the next 4 months. But do you still hold true to what we talked about a month ago, or has your tune changed now hearing him say 205?
I'm thankful that he's 205. And he can always, the weight fluctuate. Believe you me, it fluctuates. Heck, training camp, you can get way, way down just because of the heat and the intensity. And the next thing you know, you load back up on your hydration and boom, you're fine. What is my point? My point is that the main thing for Lamar is to feel elusive, to feel fast. His biggest asset is he is a dual threat guy. His biggest asset is that, you don't know what's coming at you. If I can get a bead on what's coming at me as a defense, and or I know I can contain Lamar Jackson when he decides to run, it nullifies the scariness of the Ravens offense. And Patrick Mahomes, last I checked, he could care 2 cents less whether or not you like him heavy or lighter or whatever. As long as he's slinging it around, extending plays, and or being elusive just enough. Like, I want to win. And last I checked, Lamar, that's all he's been saying from day one is, I want to win. I want to go to the Super Bowl. I want to win it. He wants to change his number to number uno. Well, that will happen with a healthy mindset and a fresh Lamar Jackson, not a Lamar Jackson that is heavy and I just think sluggish. I think a sluggish Lamar to the naked eyes, like, what do you mean he's sluggish? To his eye, to how he feels, to what I've seen a couple of different times, that's where I think he's made the adjustment.
Yeah, and you could even say, just because he weighed 230 or whatnot or 215 doesn't mean that he wasn't fast or wasn't elusive or didn't have those qualities. But compared to what we saw in his 2019 year or who he was as a rookie, it was a little bit different. It just changed a little bit. And the two plays, Q, both in the AFC Championship, I know we talked about this last time, but the two that I referenced is the play where he caught his own pass, which was crazy in itself, but he got shoestring tackled by, I think it was Drew Tranquil. And if he was just a little lighter, if he had some of that weight off, does he avoid that shoe tackle? Is he already gone to the point where it doesn't matter if Tranquil swipes at him? Then the second one was on that 4th and 1 play where he got to the right side and beat everybody. But then it felt like he just didn't feel confident enough in his speed to go and beat L'Jarius Sneed down the sideline like we've seen him do to so many defenders. He kind of was trying to back juke him and kind of ran into the tackle. So I feel like Lamar feels more comfortable, like you said, Q, playing at a lesser weight. But does that raise any durability concerns with you? Because to me, again, in 2022, we got injured at 230. Football injuries happen in so many ways, shapes, or forms. Does him playing lighter increase the risk for injury, or is that just a moot point to you?
I think as a sports performance and human movement coach, I will tell you the non-contact injury is what you most want to avoid. I think there are some training things that he needs to have implemented, but that's a conversation for another day. I think also at the same time, from a weight aspect of things, there's the actual muscle density and the ability for that muscle to be pliable. So when you do take hits, you can absorb them. If we notice he doesn't really have a lot of like direct contact type hits, I'm counting on my hand the amount of times that I've seen him. And this is what, year 7? Am I correct with that?
Yep.
Year 7, year 1, year 2, two different worlds. Year 7, you want to be light, you want to feel fresh, you don't want to feel bogged down. That's where, from a longevity aspect of things and moving forward, you want to be.
And to me too, I think it's, him talked about his rookie season. We saw him his rookie year fight for that extra yard instead of getting out of bounds. And he took a lot of unnecessary hits his rookie season. But outside of that, he's been very good at protecting his body, getting out of bounds, understanding that one extra yard is, not worth injury that keeps you out multiple weeks or multiple months. And he's been a lot smarter with his body there. So I think with Lamar Jackson's year 7 mind and a 2019 MVP body, look, I think there are a lot of good possibilities with his weight there. And it's not a concern to me. In fact, I think it's probably a welcome because Lamar has to feel comfortable playing, right? I think, look, he had an MVP year in 2023 at 215. But if he feels like he can be even better and he feels like him losing a little bit more weight can help him with that, then you know what? Who am I to sit here and say, oh, he should bulk up or he should be this weight? Obviously he's going to do what he feels is best for himself. Look, let's take a trip down memory lane for these last couple minutes here. Now, the Ryan Ripken Show did an interview with Eric DeCosta on Tuesday, did a really good job. Ryan did a great job just kind of getting DeCosta to open up about a lot of things, and DeCosta was great as well. But he told a lot of stories, not only about his journey with the Ravens, which was great in itself, but the one that caught my ear was the one about Lamar in those 2 years. He said that in a lot of ways it was the most challenging 2 years of his entire professional career. And multiple different ways talked about how it was tough on him, his family, his coworkers, everybody around him, because there are so many opinions. And it's tough to do that for a player that you respect and love so much, because it's also his obligation to get the best deal that he can for the Baltimore Ravens. That's his job. So it's kind of him weighing two different things. And plus, Lamar was obviously acting on his own behalf. There was no agent involved, so that made it a little more difficult. I mean, going back, Q, talking about General Hospital and all of your references that you made during that era, to hear DeCosta kind of open up and talk about it, like it kind of gives you a different perspective, because obviously, while it was tough for, everybody who was watching it from afar, the fan base, everybody who covers the team, the Ravens, Lamar, Eric DeCosta, he said they all wanted it quiet. That's what happened. But it just kind of gives you a different perspective on that whole situation.
Well, I think part of the quietness is just unusual for fans because of the agent's ego and them wanting to get, drop little hints and things that are, able to be out there. I think it was unusual for, Lamar to negotiate the contract on his own. Part of, negotiating the contract on his own was the fact that his mom was involved. And I think Team Lamar, people misjudged their brilliance in handling negotiations. So part of the negotiation factor is, and it's so interesting. I said this, and it literally other sports commentators. I remember I was the one. I probably was the first person to say this, that other sports people kind of piggybacked off of my statement, which was the reason why you want an agent is because the team, what they do is to minimize your brilliance of whatever the number is, the maximum number is, they badmouth you. And so the agent absorbs that bad mouthing. So then he comes back to you, massages the flow of things, and then a deal gets eventually done. There was no way that you're going to badmouth Lamar or to his mom. That's just like, you're like, all right, well, guess I'm not playing here. Bye-bye. So yeah, I just think that whole ordeal, like the amount of people that came up to me, I'm not in this, but they were trying to figure it all out and the whole flow. And, the Lamarites were just out in force, just anything that was even said remotely about the team side of things was met with disdain. So it was a very contentious time for sure. But I think, just handling it for, everybody's sake was a good job by Eric and Lamar.
Yeah, they got through it. That's what Eric said. So we don't have to worry about it. I know, Q, it felt like every show we did was about Lamar during that time, but it was the biggest topic. Literally polarizing. So we had to cover it. We had to do it. And I know you had your belly filled with your General Hospital takes. It was every single time the days of our lives. And I kind of miss that every week. You're dropping those General Hospital references. So
I was just saying, man, we just only had one life to live. But yeah, like if you think about it truly, as the world turns, from a Lamar standpoint, it's all my children. So, hey, if you can go ahead and have the sands of an hourglass, so are the days of our lives, you're going to avoid the General Hospital element of looking at what was amounting to like a soap opera-esque type of a way of doing the show.
Man, that took me back. That just took me back. So whatever contract negotiation saga comes next, I don't know if it's going to be as crazy as the Lamar one. I don't think we might not ever see something like that again. But we'll have to get your General Hospital references back in rotation on the show for sure. But Q, I appreciate you. Thanks so much for hopping on. Please, as always, tell people where they can find you and anything you're working on.
Yeah, missiletraining.com is my website. Say it again, missiletraining.com. Sports and human movement professional and specialists and clients from 6 years old all the way up to 84. A lot of young athletes in a variety of sports, male, female, boy, girl, all that, man. It's just one powerful opportunity to improve upon your movement brilliance. At the same time, you can see me on during the season and pregame during WJZ. And Thursdays, my guy, Kevin Ostreicher. We sit back and chop it up weekly, just breaking it down, all things Locked On Ravens.
Every Thursday, right here on Locked On Ravens, you got Q in the building, talking Ravens. Also, of course, all the links to Q's work in the description down below. And obviously, I'll put the Eric DeCosta link from the Ryan Ricken Show in the description as well. So I have you here today on Locked On Ravens. Really appreciate everybody tuning in again on the way out. Be sure to subscribe, like this video, follow along, video form, audio form, however you consume our content here on Locked On Ravens. Really do appreciate it. When we get back here tomorrow, rounding out the week with more Ravens content, of course. Stay tuned. I'll see you right back here tomorrow on Locked On Ravens.